So how did I feel about Monday Night Raw last night, especially with it being 2 hours? Well, for one, for a bonus, I was able to go to bed early. So who mad about going to bed early? Oh my God, it was amazing. But as far as the show itself, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It was extremely weird. It was a weird show. And I understand why that's the case. Because you go from 3 hours to 2 hours, it's going to be really difficult and extremely impossible to try to capture the same essence from a 3 hour show and translate that to a 2 hour show. Because obviously with 3 hours, you got the liberty to build storylines, to create storylines, to have matches and promos last longer. The list goes on. We all know what that is. But even though I know that, I cannot ignore what I saw last night. So there's some key points of where it showed that things got kind of weird, and I want to talk about that with you guys. But before I get started, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. So the first moment that it was glaringly obvious that shrinking down to 2 hours affected something was a segment with the new Judgment Day. So in that segment, we saw Raquel Rodriguez driving in an SUV down into a parking garage, driving at night with sunglasses on, which is extremely dangerous, which makes no sense. Like, I don't want to see anyone driving any vehicle with sunglasses on at night unless you are Riddick from the Chronicles of Riddick. I mean, if you are an Uber driver who's driving like that, just pass me by. I'll wait an hour for the next Uber, okay? That is extremely crazy. But this segment happened where she came down. The new Judgment Day, consisting of Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and Dominic Mysterio, came out. And then we saw Jackie Ratman waiting for them with a microphone, trying to interview them. Now, when they came out, they basically just said, "We're not talking to you." They talked a little bit, but they're like, "We're not talking to you. Let's get back in the SUV and let's go home." That was really weird. Now, honestly, if Raw was 3 hours long, I honestly believe that Liv Morgan would have made her way to the ring and cut a promo with Raquel Rodriguez standing next to her, just kind of giving us an explanation of how this whole thing set up. And we could have possibly got an interaction between them and Rhea Ripley, at least for the married couple that showed up to the show just to see Rhea Ripley. But instead, we got a video package of Rhea Ripley in a room full of smoke that looked like they're taping Purple Rain, yelling at the camera because she was upset with Liv Morgan. So that would have been something more interesting. And I really feel like that we would have got a promo between Finn Balor and Damian Priest, because I don't believe that match at Bad Blood is their final match in their feud. So to kind of add more flames to that feud, I think that would have been an opportunity to do that. But we didn't get to do that. The next thing that was kind of egregious was the amount of commercials that we were getting on that show, specifically in the World Heavyweight Championship match with Gunther versus Sami. So it is extremely hard to focus on how many Blue Thunder bombs Sami Zayn is trying to attempt on Gunther, when on the side of it, we got a headache commercial explaining 3 million different side effects you can have from taking their medicine, or you got Little Caesars trying to explain how many layers of cheese they have on their pizza for $5. Like, it is hard to focus on this type of wrestling match when you're paranoid and hungry at the same time. You can't focus on what's happening there. Now, I get that WWE is a business. I get they have to force those ads there because that's how they make their money. But it cuts into the audio and it really takes away from the experience of trying to experience these things the way that you should. And I get that these things happen on SmackDown, but I'm really talking about the transition from Raw from 3 hours to 2 hours and how much of a difference it made in this show. The next thing that was kind of awkward and really weird was the 10 women tag match. I mean, even when they announced it, I was like, what? What's going 10 what? And the match lasted 9 minutes. Now, for the people who are in attendance, if you are a big women's wrestling fan or have a specific woman wrestler that you love, hopefully she was a part of that 10 and you got to see them in person. So I'm happy for those individuals. But as a viewer from at home, it just seemed really messy and all over the place. You know, I'm glad for the women. I'm glad they got their TV time. But at the same time, it just felt like something like Vince McMahon would throw on a random PLE to make it last more than 10 hours, right? That's just how it felt with this thing. They could have did something, maybe Kaden Carter, Katana Chance versus the Unholy Union or something like that. I think you could have done something a little bit more interesting than what happened last night. But what can you do? It is what it is. The other thing that was very glaringly obvious is when CM Punk was cutting his promo, which I loved it. I liked the promo. But when Seth Rollins came in and interrupted him, bumped shoulders with him, walked up the ramp, got into the ring, and addressed CM Punk for probably 0.5 seconds by saying, "Hey, I hope you heal up, because the next time you come back, I'm knocking your block off." That's basically what he said. And then transitioned to talking about Brunson Reed, and then we saw Jey Uso come out, and they kind of did a bunch of transitions in a matter of probably 10 minutes. Now, I personally felt like if Raw was really 3 hours at that moment, we would have gotten a longer interaction between CM Punk and Seth Rollins, but it felt very rushed. Now, the part where they were just kind of transitioning between CM Punk to Seth Rollins to Jey Uso, that part of it overall really didn't bother me, because I remember SmackDown used to do that a lot, where a person would finish their match, walk up the ramp, and then the person coming up for the next segment or match will pass them up, and they'll have a brief interaction, whether it be like a facial expression or they'll say something or bump shoulders, that really didn't materialize to anything else. And they do this a lot on a lot of house shows, so that part wasn't new to me. But the fact that they really could have gotten more out of the interaction between Seth Rollins and CM Punk, because that's obviously the next match, if not the final feud for CM Punk, if he does decide to retire, then it's just like, we could have got more meat out of that. But we'll get it when CM Punk decides to come back, and that'll probably be around the time that, WWE goes over to Netflix with Raw. And last but not least, I'm sure this is what everybody else is saying, is the fact that it felt like rushed. Like, you're watching it and they're like, hurry up, let's get to the next one. Because we're used to Raw being longer and slow plotting and planting seeds and all those different things. And, obviously when it being shorter, you don't have that opportunity, which, what can you really do about that? You can't be really too upset about that, especially since this is just temporarily. So in 2025, we'll go back to the 3 hours that we always wanted. But at the end of the day, I didn't think the show was as terrible as most people thought it was. It was really awkward to watch, but the CM Punk promo was cool. The match between Gunther and Sami Zayn, I love that. The match between Sheamus and Pete Dunne, that was great too as well. It was things that were great that came out of this, but it was just other things that were noticeably awkward that happened given that Raw's 2 hours. And I guess that's something we just got to get used to for the next couple months until Raw goes to Netflix for the first time. So what did you guys think about Raw last night? Do you like or dislike the 2 hour format? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. Salute, peace, have a good day.